Well, here it is, the last installment of this year's tour. It gave me a good reason to go through and clean up, tidy up the plant room. So, join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at the Long Hoya Tour 2025, Part 3. Before we get things underway, I'm happy to take this opportunity to send out a special thanks to Shirley C., who bought me a coffee in the last week or so, and to Ice Drifts, who sent me a super thanks. Your contributions to the channel mean quite a bit to me and go a long ways to keeping me in Hoyas and Dischidias and technology and infrastructure. So thank you all very much for your support. We've got a couple of bloomers this week. One of them I'm happy about. And that's my species Bengkulu Rindu Rafflesia. And I'm going to see if I can get this in focus for you. Very, very pretty. There, of course, will be some close-ups over here if they aren't there already. And there's another set of buds just opening in the front. Very neat. We had a little bit of a struggle, this plant and I, but it's been doing really well. Again, there's another one I think I need to move it to lower light because it's just looking a little pale. But yeah, very happy about that. This is Hoya species Bengkulu Rindu Rafflesia. And the other one we've got blooming, and maybe I can get this to work well, is Hoya species Kalimantan. And there's some blooms here, and there's some more tucked in there, hiding behind a leaf, as it were. But yeah, very, very nice. This is a gorgeous plant. This is, for me, has been a really, really easy grower. It's part of that whole Finlaysonii, Calistophylla, Clemenciorum complex, and this has been by far the easiest of all of those to grow. So yeah, this little bloomer is Hoya species Kalimantan. And from the comments, thanks to those of you who took the time to add a comment and about what your no regrets plant was, and it was like, the big winner was one I absolutely agree with. It's Hoya Hushkeliana intervariegated. For me, it's just been a great little plant. Mine has been in bloom for probably almost 6 months now. The blooms smell like buttered popcorn to me, and what's not to like about that? So yeah, the other one was Hoya Mathilde, and I'm in absolute agreement with that one as well. Good choices. The one that I'm jealous of is the folks who said that their Monstera Thai constellation was growing so well. I'm jealous because I'm on number 2 and mine's just not happy. I just moved it recently. It lives back here during the summertime. I just moved it into a higher light area, not bright direct sun, but more light. And we'll see if it gets a little bit happier there. But yeah. There's only one Monstera I grow with any success, and that's Monstera adansonii. But I'd like to at least have the experience of having a big leaf Monstera grow for me. So keep your fingers crossed, all right? So against the southeast wall in the Hoya room, I have another set of those 6-foot or 1.8 meter shelves. So let's start by taking a look with who lives on the top shelf. And against the southeast wall, next to my linearis, I have a Hoya species Kalimantan, which has always been a good grower. It's getting ready to bloom in several places. So that's very neat. And on the back wall of these shelves is hiding a little carnosa Assami. And this one just recently put out an all yellow leaf, or almost entirely yellow leaf. And it's next to a Hoya rangsan, which struggled a little bit some time ago. It got flat mites and they were very aggressive. And it's hiding out next to my Hoya erythrina, back in there, which is itself getting ready to bloom. It's kind of latched on to the trellis for that rangsan. And in the front, we have species chicken farm. Another good grower, another plant I heartily recommend. And on the side of this shelf is Hoya burmanica. And I just recently moved it here. It was not working where it was, so it's very much working out here. Very happy. It's just starting to put out some peduncles down in here. I don't know if I'll be able to get this to focus on them, but they're down there. I'm very pleased about that. And in the back corner of this shelf is my Hoya species MA03. And this side of the shelf gets a little bit of late morning sunshine. So they really like that. And that's the top shelf on this set. And now we'll take a look at who lives on the lower shelf of that set. The bottom shelf is home to my Hoya globulosa, who, since I moved it to self-watering, has taken off. He's on another little adventure. I'll have to have an intervention. And back in here is my Hoya spectatissima, right next to Hoya chonghingensis, which has turned into just this huge plant that I really, really enjoy. And down in front is Hoya brassii, which has started to grow aggressively and is constantly thirsty. So he needs a drink right now. And next to that is Hoya clemenciorum, putting out a little bit of new growth. Looking nice, no complaints. And back in the corner is my Hoya callistophylla, which has been very, very cool. It's one of my longest lived plants and blooms regularly, and those leaves are just amazing. And that's who lives on the bottom shelf. In front of that southeast facing window, I have a low table, and I have a number of Hoyas that live there so that they get early morning gentle sun. There's a shade of trees across the street that takes some of the edge off during the summer, and the light is much more gentle in the winter, so they live there year round and seem to appreciate it. So let's take a look at who they are. And on a shelf, or on a low table next to those shelves, is my Hoya multiflora, who's getting ready to bloom and is in desperate need of some more support stakes. And it hangs out with Hoya bicknelli, who's getting ready to bloom in there. Always welcome. This turned out to be a good grower. I can tell he needs a drink right now. And then we have Hoya finlaysonii, wide leaf, next to Hoya finlaysonii, EPC 317, which is starting to take off and grow for me. And its neighbor is Hoya pacharawali, who just finished blooming a little bit ago. again, which is very, very cool. I love this plant. And in the corner here is my Hoya plicata, which is just, it's very, very pretty leaved. And it just grows for me. It gets a lot of bright early morning light on this side of the table. So I think it really appreciates that. In front of those plants is my Hoya verstecki, which is a steady but slow grower now. And next to it is Hoya piastolepis, which is putting out a new leaf. So there's hope. And my Hoya, and I bought this labeled Kentiana, so I'm sticking with that until I find out differently. This is the inner variegated, and it loves this spot and it loves self-watering, so we're good there. Its neighbor is Hoya griffithii, and this should come with a warning label. It's a very aggressive grower. The leaves are absolutely beautiful. Lots of nice splash. But boy, this guy gets into everybody's business. And his neighbor is Hoya NS05055. Very neat little leaves, a nice little plant. Hasn't bloomed for me yet, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. And its neighbor is my monster Hoya vitellinoides, who seems to like this location as well. Those leaves are huge. If I'd known they were going to get that big, I might have thought twice, maybe, not necessarily. And his neighbor is Hoya species Indonesia, which is very pretty, glossy leaves, a little bit of splash. Hasn't bloomed yet, but there's hope. And on the edge, furthermost into the room, is my Hoya scortikini. Again, another rampant grower. And its neighbor is my Hoya latifolia Sarawak. It's gorgeous, but it wants some space. And finally, a little verticillata tucked in here. And those are the plants that live on the table in front of the window. Now I have a small work desk that sits in the middle of the Hoya room, and one of the long sides faces that southeast facing window. So let's take a look at who lives there. And on the little desk facing my southeast window is my green Dischidia rucifolia, which has a few blooms starting in there. And next to that is a little Dischidia hirsuta. And its neighbor, Dischidia ovata, who has been really loving this location, and itself has a little bloom in there. And its neighbor is Dischidia parasita and Dischidia oeantha, who has settled in and seems to be happy in this new location. And finally, Hoya thompsonii, which has grown long, and it too it recently moved to this spot, and it seems to be enjoying it. It seems a good amount of light for it. So that's who lives on the front of the desk. On the side of the desk is my little Hoya wayeti. And next to it is Hoya sanguensis. And it too recently moved here, and I think it likes this spot. There's a lot of nice new growth. And finally down here is my Hoya Lee. And it too, this is a lower light setting, and it seems to be really appreciating that. Now on the desk, I have another cutting of Hoya Blas Harnesi. And next to that is a Hoya Kennegiana intervariegated. And for a long time, it just kept putting out leaves like that. But now has started putting out leaves like that, which is why I bought it in the first place. So yay. Now back here I have a Hoya verticillata black margin, which I'm going to transfer to self-watering very shortly because it just needs it. And I have some other starts and some new carnivorous plants. That's a Pinguicula montexuma and a Drosera wideleaf. They've just been here for a few days, but seem to be settling in. And my Hoya pauciflora and peltata and Comingi intervariegated are all ready to move into their long-term residences. So that's what's on the top of the desk. And finishing along the southeast-facing wall, I have an old dresser, and there are a few plants that live on top of that, including a couple of my Hoya bellas. So let's take a look. And on top of my old dresser back here, I've got a Dischidia rucifolia outer variegated, and one of my monster bellas. It's the plain green. Back here is a little Hoya stenophylla, which is growing, putting out some new growth, so I need to attend to it. And my intervariegated Hoya bella. I have a Hoya Fichi. It's supposed to bloom in yellow, but it hasn't bloomed yet. And finally back here, hiding in that back corner, is my Hoya coriaceae. That one just grows like crazy, and it probably wants a better location, but space is at a premium. You take what you get. So that's what's against the southeast wall. And the desk. Now on my southwest facing wall, I have a small set of shelves right next to the dresser, and there are a number of plants that live on the top. So let's take a look at the top shelf of that set of shelves. And against the southwest wall, we have my Hoya ABL 0017 Ann Street, which was a cutting couple cuttings actually, that I received. I'm the only one who has it, so it's interesting. It's a hybrid cross, and I'll put the details on the screen. In the back there is my Hoya Sung Wookie, and I've raved about this plant. I recently moved it to this taller trellis and gentler light, and it has responded with insane growth. In the back here is another Hoya Fichi. I didn't think my first one was going to survive, so I bought this. And this one has clearly settled in and is putting out crazy growth. And back here is Hoya Nuna. It's a hybrid, and I'll put the parentage on the screen. It's supposed to have beautiful yellow blossoms, so I'm excited about that. And in front It's my little Hoya leucantha, which is just going great guns. It branches readily, and I love the look of the leaves, so that's very cool. We have Dischidia lancifolia, who's doing well in there and putting out some new growth of its own. Next to a Dischidia GPS 88, which loves this location, this light, so it's doing well. And finally, my Oreospart sabaensis, and it has new growth in several spots. Very happy that this one succeeded, so that's quite exciting. And along the front, some starts, more GPS 88, and a Madulidi start. This is Hoya Boise, which is putting out new growth, so it may be time, where is it? There it is. So it may be time to move it into a long-term residence. A cutting I took from my new Vangviangiensis, and it has rooted and is putting out new leaves. And down in here, we have Hoya peltata, who is at last growing. Very happy about that. So that's the top shelf against the southwest wall. And there are a few plants that live on the bottom shelf and the back wall. I have some of my the material I'll use for trellises, the garden fencing, stretched down the back wall of those shelves, so it gives me a place to hang a few plants. So let's take a look and see what's on that shelf. On the back wall of the lower shelf, I have Hoya mirabilis clone B, and I recently moved it here, and yeah, it likes this spot. And next to that, NS12 323, sometimes called micro dwarf, but yeah, this one looks delicate and fragile, but it's very tolerant and forgiving. Just ask me. And down here, I have my Hoya mengsaensis, which dropped all its leaves after it arrived, but I didn't give up on it, and it's put out this new growth. So that's very nice. I love those leaves. That's very pretty. And the front row of that shelf that we just looked at is Hoya species affinity verticillata Vietnam. Nice splashy leaves. It likes this location too, so we're pleased about that. And its neighbor is Hoya microstemma, who again likes this light, likes the situation. Oh, there's a peduncle in there. Yay. Where is it? It's in there someplace. But yeah, it's done very well since I moved it here. And next to that is Hoya acicularis. And I started this one out as a trailing plant and realized that if it got going, that wasn't going to work for me. So moved it to a trellis. And that's who lives on this bottom shelf. And there are a couple of plants that live on the floor in front of that shelf because the lighting is still kind of nice down there. I don't know what I'm going to do with them with this winter because the heating vent is back underneath that bottom shelf. So, I have to figure that one out. But let's take a look. On the floor in front of that shelf lives my Hoya ranahuensis. Some very nice splashing on those leaves. They're a good size, though. This could turn into something big here. And next to that is Hoya species Lei Chow longleaf, and it's got a lot of the same characteristics that the roundleaf variety does, just the leaves are long. It's very pretty. That's one of my favorite unnamed species. And next to it is Hoya mindorensis, which has put out a lot of growth this summer. And it needs serious, it has a make-do trellis right now. It needs something more permanent real quick. And that's who lives down here. And to the right of those small shelves, I have another 6-foot or 1.8 meter set of shelves. I only have 3 shelves installed, the top one, the middle one, and the very bottom one. So there's a light hanging from the top, there's a light hanging from the middle, and the bottom one is set just off the floor so I can get a vacuum underneath that for those times when I feel compelled to do that. And I did it for you all. So yeah. So let's take a look at my unruly lacunosas and cronianas who live on that top shelf. On the tall shelves against this southwest wall is all my unruly lacunosas. And this is Lacunosa giant leaf. And Lacunosa laus tucked in there. Next to it is my Sipitongensis, and it's not happy in this location. I'm going to have to do something about that. And next to Sipitongensis is Hoya lacunosa punsac, who is getting ready to bloom and blooming. And his neighbor is Hoya lacunosa durian perongin. And then we have Hoya lacunosa Mr. Tent back in there, who is also blooming. Hoya mirabilis, gracilis, whichever it turns out to be. And Hoya VL9, gorgeous plant, just gorgeous. And Hoya croniana super silver is tucked in behind him. And on the far side again, in the back, is Hoya GPS 7240. And Hoya croniana black, living back in there. And a cutting I have of my Oreo spart, formerly known as Papua Hoya species 001. And I got to find a home for him. And a cutting of Hoya ponderata Vietnam, which is ready to find a regular pot. And hanging in front of all those kids is my Hoya sigulatus. And this one has just done really well for me in this location. And so we're leaving well enough alone. But he's long enough now that he's grown down toward the bottom shelf and gets into everything. So, but I'm not complaining because he's a good plant. Let's take a look. And on the front of that shelf is my Hoya sigulatus. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. This is, I think, the third one I have purchased, and it's the one that finally took. I had something of a learning curve, but it eventually worked out. And as Doug Chamberlain said, when you find a place it likes, don't move it. And I haven't. And that's the top shelf on this set. And there are a few more plants that live on the bottom shelf and the 2 side walls around them. And I have, on this set of shelves, I have that same garden fencing all the way on the back for the full height and on the sides for the full height. So let's take a look at the ones that live there. The residents of the bottom shelf include this Hoya breviolata, who also has decided to take a little adventure. My Hoya flagellata, which is now, I believe, considered a caudata, and I can see why, but it's doing very well. Next to my Hoya sulawesiana. And I wanted this plant the first time I saw it, and I got it, and we had our struggles, but I think it's finally kind of accepted and come to like where it is. This is Hoya species SR 2007-13, Loei province. It looks like it could be a latifolia relative, but I'm not a botanist and it's not my call, so it's a pretty plant nonetheless. And in the corner over here, my Hoya carnosa amarillo, which is just a little monster plant. I'm very fond of this one. I love the variegation on the leaves when they're new. And even when they're older, they're still kind of handsome. Which something no one has ever said about me. And that's who lives on the bottom shelf. Oops, there's one more. There's one more. There's a little Oreospart species down here that we have dubbed round leaf, just to differentiate it from the one that's formerly known as Papua Hoya 001. And it has settled in, tiny little thing that it was, and it's doing okay. So that's the lower shelf. And finally, of course, there are a few plants that live on the floor in front of those shelves, so let's see who they might be. And there are 3 more that live in front of that shelf on the floor. And this is Hoya insularis, who started life here as a trailing plant. But then I realized that that just wasn't going to work and changed it and gave it a trellis. And it has been very happy ever since. Very cool blossoms on this. Next to that is one of my caudatas. This is another caudata Sumatra. And it's getting ready to bloom in there. I put this one into an organic mix in a self-watering pot, and man, that's just about the best thing you can do for a caudata. They'll love you forever for it. And finally over here, my long-suffering elliptica. The leaves are very pretty. It's a nice plant. It can be a bit of a diva. If it's not entirely happy, it will pout, and it's very good at pouting. But we put up with it because those leaves are just incredible. And that's who lives in front of these shelves. And that's it. That's the Hoyas and Dischidia and Oreospart that are part of my collection. Now I have other plants throughout the house, but they're just there for fun. So now you've seen where they are, where they live, and what they've been up to lately. And yeah, it's good for me to go through all of them too and take a look and check in on everybody. So yeah. And the question for the comments this week comes from a question a viewer asked me. Is there a plant that you have tried multiple times, and did you finally get it right, or did you give up on it? And I can tell you that yes, there are several plants that I have tried, and I'm speaking of Hoyas here, that I have tried a couple of times. Sigulatus, I think the one you saw might be Sigulatus number 4. I think that might be Sigulatus number 4. And there are several others when things didn't go right, I immediately ordered another one because I wanted that plant as part of my collection. Yeah, so let me know, is there one you've tried a couple times and did it finally end up working for you? And as always, I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember thumbs up, like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. They're all really important to helping the channel grow. A lot of the products that you may have seen throughout this video are available through my Amazon storefront, and there's a link in the description to that storefront. I get a small commission on the sales, but it doesn't increase your price at all. If you're in the market for grow lights, there's a link in the description to the Sansi web page. And if you use my code, PlantedInRI, at checkout, you'll receive a 32% discount from the prices there. Again, I receive a commission on the sales that helps support the channel, but it doesn't increase your price whatsoever. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, or down here somewhere, there's a thanks button, and YouTube handles the processing for the thanks button. As always, links to a couple more videos you might enjoy over here, and enjoy the rest of your week's end.